Hello and welcome. You're watching Vision Plus. I'm Bonnie Libhart. Emily is still working, and I have with me Tony Libhart, who I've been married to for 31 years. You know what we're going to talk about today? Money. We're still talking about money. Or maybe we'll even talk about how you can have more money at the end of the 90s than you had at the beginning of the 90s decade. Would you like that? Well, you just listen to this person and maybe he'll give you a tip that you will be so happy that you watched. Tony, welcome to Vision Plus.
Thank you.
And do you have a philosophy on how to have enough money, all the money that you need that the Lord would like?
I can give you the universal financial statement.
Okay, let's have it.
When your outgo exceeds your income, your upkeep becomes your letdown. It's
That's
very
right.
simple.
In other words, don't spend more than you have.
You've got it.
Well, now, over the last 31 years, we have had a lot of times that you've made all the mistakes. Naturally, I didn't make any of them. They were all your fault.
When my outgo exceeded my income, yes.
Right. So let's figure out what have we learned in this last 31 years about having faith in God and having enough money. Because it seems that a lot of marital problems, I know we wrote this book, Born Again Marriage, and a lot of it had to do with maybe wanting too much money or wanting more money than God had intended for us to. So he tells us that we have all things that we need. And so tell me what have you learned in the last 31 years? Give me your philosophy.
You want all of that in a few minutes.
Right. What would you
Wow.
say, as far as money is concerned, what some of the most important things?
Well, one of the most important things to me is to learn to live within your present means. And don't think about what your future means is going to be. It may be a lot greater than what you can imagine, and it may be less, because there are other circumstances, things that will happen in your life. And I think that Satan is always throwing his darts, trying to mess us up. And it may be allowed in part by the Lord when he wants to teach me something. And if I stay attuned to the Lord, then I think that he will see me through, and I can realize that I was headed in the wrong direction in a certain area or phase of my life. And I think that if I try to stay attuned to the Lord and pray and be earnest with performing as he would desire me, I think that I will then see through and be able to adjust my life and my expenditures so that I do not overextend, and so that I can build up a savings, and that I can pay my bills, that I can learn to like to live with what I can afford to spend.
Being content.
Well, it's being content, but I think it goes a step beyond, in that I am learning to enjoy the fact that I don't owe an arm and a leg in my future.
Amen. And having the faith in God that he says that he'll take care of us and that he won't put more on us than we can take. And
Right.
Have you made mistakes in the past? What mistakes do you feel like that you have made?
I think I made a few. I have done, as far as the mismanaging finances, which everybody I'm sure has done to some extent, to judge in comparison. I'm sure that I've made all of the classical mistakes that anybody in the past has made.
What's a classical mistake? Using credit cards?
Oh yeah, the credit card deal. Yeah, we've had plastic surgery even recently on that, and
that means cutting up all the credit cards.
Yeah, cutting up the credit cards, and I think that, like, even your vehicle, your home, your entertainment style, the things that you want to do that cause you to spend some amount of money, I think that if you can learn to do with a little bit lesser value item for a while until you save the money to purchase for cash a better vehicle or a better home or something that you feel would more equip you. And boy, when I say those things, there are additional subjects that you can get into very easily. One of them, like, and you're aware of this, that we had a home built when we were married after, what, about 7 or 8 years. We thought, well, we're going to have a home built and we're going to make it just the way we'll always want it the rest of our lives. By the time that thing was built, we wanted it considerably different. And then we did another thing, if you'll remember. After we were married about 15 years, we had sold that house, and we thought, okay, we're going to buy one that doesn't have but maybe half of the things that we would kind of like in a home. And we spent several years learning that, hey, we liked some of the things that were in this house that we didn't like particularly at the moment that we purchased it. So it unfolded something to me that your life changes, your desires change as you go on and progress through your married life.
I wish that when we got married, I knew already that I really didn't want collecting silver and crystal and things that a lot of the girls did 31 years ago. They don't seem to be doing that so much anymore.
Some do. It's different people, and we've associated with people who had values that are different than so many things. We're, I guess we're more people-oriented because we've raised 3 children, and we saw a lot of different people.
Very great interest in having enough money, and looked at it backwards sometimes in the way God does, because He says, seek ye first the kingdom of heaven, and all these things shall be added unto you. And I think He means, in addition to some of the other things, He meant things that you'd like to have: houses, cars, furniture, and those things that really don't matter. Those things do not matter as long as you have a roof over your head, shelter, and He says.
Well, I think it has to be a place that fits, and I think it should have, enough rooms that each child has his or her own privacy.
That would be ideal.
Yeah, but I think it can't be just like any old place. I think God wants to give good things to His people. And I think if we are His people, and, we continually will make mistakes because we're human beings. But if we try to do His will, I think He has some good things that the better that we try to do it with where we're coming from, the more He will allow us to have some good things in our future.
There's a thing that I think we've learned, but it took us many years to learn because we didn't come from a church that taught tithing per se, but that's been a commitment that we made. Well, they talked about giving money and offering into the church, but it was not necessarily a tithe. And I think that what God is talking about is your attitude. It's not just the amount of money that you give, but also the attitude you have about giving. And I think that's been something that we've come to do that we didn't do in the past. It was to give more of the amount of money that does come into our household.
Yeah, well, one of the reasons is because as we are growing older, we get into more of a scheduled system. And when we were younger, you didn't know when one of the kids was going to get a disease or childhood diseses or get hurt or things.
If you had more faith in God, you would know that He's going to heal them from those diseases. If we could have gone back, if I had it to do over again, I would have more faith in God. Number one, I wouldn't try to get the latest clothes and all those little frilly dresses you think your children are supposed to have, and they wear maybe once a year, and the next year you've outgrown them already, but you buy those expensive clothes.
Well, you shouldn't have your children until you're about 50 or so. And then
really, I like that idea. Then you finally get the smarts
after you learn how to do all this.
Take care of them. By that time, then you got all these grandchildren too. If we could start over and have the grandchildren first to learn with, and then have the children later, I think that'd be a good idea.
I'm learning an awful lot off of those grandchildren.
Yeah, that's right. That's for sure. But I think the idea of if we had made the commitment, and if I had it to do over again, if I had any word to the young couple, I would first make sure that I'm living within the income. Because if you are using plastic money, the credit cards, you've got to pay that next month, or that they're going to come due.
That's somebody else's money.
That's actually
That's
true.
not your money.
And it is not money that you have to spend or will ever have to spend unless you have savings in the bank to back that up, or savings where that if you're using the money and you can use their money interest-free for 30 days, that's fine. But they've stopped that now. The new credit card companies are charging interest from the first day you use the credit card. So it's a little different than it was even a couple of years ago when you could use a credit card. You didn't pay any interest on that until the end of 30 days or whenever the time you got the bill. And also the other credit card companies that supposedly don't charge you interest, they are now charging such a large fee, yearly fee, $75 for Gold card, American Express Gold card, $75 per card now. And if more than one person in the family, that's just more money that are using that card. And so they're getting some of their money up front for you using their money. And then, of course, the merchants who accept credit cards are paying, used to be 4%, now you're lucky if you can get it 5 or 6%, where the merchant is losing that much money. So it's a lose-lose situation. If people would make a determination that they're going to cut up their credit cards or never get credit cards and haunt the garage sales and the estate sales for furniture and clothing, and you can have more by doing some of those things. And this false pride cometh before a fall. I think that this pride that we have of never using, I know that a lot of families would never use, I've heard them in my own family say, I'm not going to wear some clothes that another human being has worn, or use furniture that another person has had, or use a car that another person has had. They want everything to be new from the beginning, but I think that's some of that false pride. Now, one of the things that we have done, we did it when we wrote the book, Born Again Marriage, was write out an actual schedule of how we wanted to use the money. Now, that comes into the household. And I really feel like that it should be the one earner's money. Now, if you're a one-person family, single-parent family, then naturally you only have that one unless you're getting some kind of child support.
Right.
But this is what we had put together. First of all, you find out what your assets are, the cash on hand, any checking account or savings account, and then life insurance, real estate, and automobiles, and furniture, and personal property, and then your liabilities, how much your house payment is, your utilities, your charge cards, and if you can get rid of those charge cards and not have those anymore. Any loans you got from your family, maybe to make the down payment on a house. And I think we made some mistakes by loaning our children money or giving them money to make a down payment on their house, because I think that they didn't earn that money. How did your dad do?
Well, first of all, I want to address that statement you made about we loan our children some money at times. What happened there, and I distinctly remember, if we had the money already saved up and they would approach us, because they would kind of know that Dad and Mom were putting some things back at that time in our lives, it was easy for us to say, well, yeah, we're not really using it for anything, and if we get a little bit of interest because we loaned it to the kids, that's okay. That's fine to do that, because you should help your own family.
And not charge interest.
Yeah, or even not charge it, right? And we would do this without thinking what is going to be the impact on their young lives.
Because they didn't save the money up to do that.
Right, because my parents would not loan me or give me money. I had to earn, or I remember the first car that I had, I look at some new cars and some late model cars, and my dad would not say a word when I go look at them. He wouldn't encourage me to go look at them. wouldn't really talk too much about the new cars. He wanted to hear my input because he was smart enough not to get hooked on getting into the system with me. And what I had to do was take an old wrecked car, and he said, I will let you use the facility, the property, and you can repair that car and get it into
Well, your dad
safe
had a
operation.
repair garage
He had
where he
that.
could do that.
I could use that, but I had to do my own work on it. So what he was doing was teaching me the value of an automobile. And I was learning a trade, sort of, at the same time, and I was only like 15 years old at the time I started to build up my own old jalopy and made a pretty good car out of it. And then when I went to buy a new car, yes, he made it easy so that I could borrow the money.
But you had a very good job by that time.
I had
You'd
a good
gone
job
through
by that
college,
time, yes,
and you had a good
I had to
job.
pay every nickel back, and I thought, well, the last week I owed him like $12 or something. And I said, well, Pop, I need to get the title of that car now. I just like to have it so I can get it in my name. He said, well, the schedule is that you owe me about $10 more or whatever it is, and that's not due until the end of the week. And I'm going to wait till the end of the week. I don't want it before then, and you'll pay me the balance of that car at the end of the week. Then we'll go down and get the encumbrance taken off. His name was on it at the end of that time. He said, because if I'm not around someday, and I won't always be here, that's the way it's going to be. And you learn those lessons. And I thought, boy, that's a hard thing for a dad to say, but I'm glad that he did that.
At the first cars they had, what was kind of made a mistake. We did better on their first cars than later on. We helped them a little bit on the second cars, and I think that was a mistake that we made.
Yeah.
I wish that we had been more careful then. But also, we did make them pay us back, and our children, and us. And there was time when they wanted things that we didn't loan to them. I know one of our kids broke the glass off of their breakfast table, and I was, you know, hey, they don't have a table to eat off of, let's go get it fixed.
Yeah.
You said, no, I'm not going to do it. And, you know, they eventually made out with laying placemats on these wooden stubs, you know, and finally they got the glass back again. But now I know they'll appreciate it a lot more that we didn't. But there's so many times when I'd like to dive in there and help them, you know.
Oh, yeah, that's easy to...
But now...
We're going to live their lives for them.
What are, in addition to, we should never have gotten credit cards. I'm telling you, companies would mail us credit cards. And we had one credit card, and they'd mail us other credit cards we didn't even apply for. And companies will actually mail you some credit card companies and some places like Penny's and Sears and Ward's. You get on somebody's list, and they send you these credit cards. But you got to have the guts to cut those up or throw them away. Or I heard this one person that actually put them in the oven and let them curl up, you know, and then they mailed them back to the credit card company and said, we're not going to use these.
Yeah.
They got the message across.
The people who get that card back, it's not that particular person's fault.
I know, but somehow that message gets to the company, for they can joke about it. What are some other mistakes you think we've made over the years? I think about cars, leasing a car. When it was a company lease car, that's one thing because you can write it off on the company. But personally,
when it becomes
a rental or lease
directly
car,
to the person, my feeling is, I'm just giving you opinion, is that an individual leasing a car, to me, I don't see where it's a good deal.
Not unless they're a real estate agent or in some kind of sales field where they can write that off. But I think that that we should save up the money for a car.
I think if it's a business, that it can be a good deal. If you have to have a vehicle, but you can't go get direct financing.
I think that another thing that I've made a mistake, perhaps it was a mistake, being in real estate for so many years, since 1975, I guess, or 3 or 4, I first took the real estate courses.
Yeah,
and then later got into real estate. But I think that one of the things they teach you in real estate is when you buy property, location, location, location is the 3 rules of real estate. Well, it has caused me to maybe want to get in a better area than perhaps I should have just because I wanted the very best location. Well, that's fine. You should keep in mind location, but also not get into one that is above what you can be able to afford. I think another mistake that we've made is getting a house that was over what we should have been putting in the money, paying for space we're not using.
Yeah, when you move to a new location, you got to sell one house and get another one. You know, you also have to look at that tax situation, that you don't want to purchase lower because you're going to pay capital gains tax on it, and we become frightened on this. Oh, we're going to have to pay some extra taxes. But
if they could remember, it's only the tax on the gain that you made. If you bought a house for 120 and sold it,
you really need to talk to a competent CPA and let him explain what this year's tax situation is.
But once you get 55, which you're almost there, not quite, but almost.
Don't talk about that.
Then you can take a one-time deduction of up to $150,000. It has parameters you have to work within in that situation, but there is a one time when you can take those deductions for so you can buy lower.
There's a few other rules that go with that. That's why you need to
check with the CPA, of course. But that's only once you become 55 and you've lived in the house for 3 years prior to that, or you know those situations.
Right.
And you have to have bought a house within 2 years of the time you moved out, bought or started building a house within 2 years of when you sold your last house.
Yep.
Or you can have income producing property. So all those things you need to check out. But there's so many times that we use credit cards when we shouldn't have. Fortunately, we didn't for this Christmas time, but there's been a lot of Christmases over the last 31 years when we bought Christmas with credit cards. In January, the toys were already ruined, and the things you bought were gone, and you were still paying for those. So
I think it matters what you use a credit card for. Now, for a person who has a business or has to do some traveling,
and use it for a hotel.
Well, for a hotel, for getting a rental car. If you don't have a viable credit card and you try to go rent a rental car at an airport, you got big problems.
Well, they wouldn't even probably sell you one for cash at a place like that without a credit card. But at the same time,
that's their system that's set up.
That's the system. But maybe you can figure out a way where you wouldn't have to have a rental car. There's a possibility that could happen.
No, I think if you have the credit card and you have the discipline that's required to go with it.
That is the secret.
That's what we have learned in the 31 years.
That you have to have the discipline. If you cannot pay for that, do not have the credit card. Do not and about a car. And
a big part of God's teaching us is the discipline.
Discipline. Because He wants us to, and we haven't been disciplined in the past. I think you didn't have this challenge, but I grew up, and people who watch know this, on a cotton farm, no electricity, no running water. I like to brag about that every once in a while. You heard that before. But the thing is, sometimes that makes you, when you get to the point where you can get a credit card, you go bananas because you think, oh, look what all I remember the very first time that we got one of those where you could go in and you could put a bank card in a bank and get cash out. Remember that?
Yes.
What did you do that day?
Tried it.
Yeah, but you said, oh, I found the fountain of money. You put that credit card in, and you thought that you But we even learned not to use that, because figure out before 6 o'clock on Friday the amount of money you're going to need for the weekend and go ahead and get it out of the bank, because you will get out more money than you need when it's so easy there.
Well, it becomes a credit card syndrome to you.
And then the worst part is you forget to, many times, I've done this, you forget to deduct it from your checkbook, and then you get your bank statement in, or you keep writing checks and you're overdrawn. So there are things that we can do, but praise the Lord, He has taught us when you seek the Lord, then He will help you to become disciplined.
One other thing you want to do in any of your finances is keep complete, accurate, legible records.
That's right. We've been
Always get that
audited
receipt,
for the IRS.
get that receipt, file it so you know how to explain to your CPA, or if you're doing your own taxes, whatever, that you can accurately slot that thing where it belongs.
And you start now in January. You don't wait until December or January of next year.
Right.
So for 1990, you start in January of this year.
Right.
Boy, that's another thing we've had to learn.
Takes you 2 or 3 weeks to get accustomed to that little bit of extra work, but you keep telling yourself an updated story continually so that you know financially where you're at every moment. And then you don't end up overspending your income.
And you feel happy if you know you can't go out to eat on Sunday, or you don't feel terrible inside.
You might feel hungry, but you'll feel happy. Is that okay?
Yeah, okay. But you also feel like you're in control of it. It's not. So I guess to sum it all up, we say, seek ye first the kingdom of heaven and His righteousness. All these things shall be added unto Him. If you put God first and commit to tithe to your church and to your places like Victory Network, and then after you've done that, then you can give your offering, pay cash for things starting now for next Christmas, and for birthdays and new babies being born and people getting married and all of those kinds of things. And then what is it that will happen? You won't have the outgo exceed your income.
That's right.
And therefore your upkeep won't be your letdown. That's the way I
Right.
think you said it.
Right.
Tony, I appreciate your coming and being with me today and going over this to remind me that I can't have maybe everything I'd like to have because now I can't go out and buy it on a credit card. But what we do have
We own it.
That's right.
What we buy now, we own.
And we'd be happy to talk with you if you'd like to have a little more information about this. I'd be glad to. If you need some help in writing a budget, we'd be glad to do that for you. And you can find a lot of it in this book, Born Again Marriage. And for that, you may either call 461-8148. You may have one for a donation to the Victory Network. Or if you would like to call us at 539-3337, put it on our recorder phone. We'll be glad for you to do that. And any kind of donation to Victory Network, $5 or more, you may have this book, which has the information about the budget in it. And I'm so happy you joined us, and we want you to join us always here on Victory Network. I'm Bonnie Libhart, along with Tony Libhart. You're watching Vision Plus here on Victory Network. Bless your heart for watching.
Pray.